Welcome back, loyal fight fans. Another great episode of Boxing is ahead. First and foremost, as we always do, please thumbs up for the video. Subscribe if you have not already. Lord only knows what we're waiting for. And sharing the content around is most important of all to help your favorite podcast. So on this podcast, we have a little saying, if you have a friend, a family member, a homeless guy, or a crazy ex-girlfriend who enjoys combat sports, tell them about this show because I'm sure they'd love it. So today is the first installment of a new kind of mini-series, which we do a lot of on this show. I have a lot of different little mini-series, impersonation stuff, fight picks from the future. Unknown to Casuals is a great one if you are somewhat of a casual boxing fan, putting you on to fighters that are absolutely great throughout the history of boxing that you probably haven't heard of before. But this is the first installment of real boxing robberies, okay? The real ones, because a lot of times, it's not that I disagree with every time, but somebody will think that a certain fighter should have won a fight in a, here's a key word, in a close enough fight. So if you have a fight going 7 rounds to 5 for one guy and they give it to the other guy, absolutely every single time, by definition, that is not what a robbery is. And we need to stop screaming that from the roofs, because I'm going to show you the real bad ones. The ones that just stand right out, where it is literally the most incompetent judging that you have ever seen and somebody needs to be fired, or it is absolute through and through corruption. That is what boxing robberies are made of. They're not in close fights where it's 7 rounds to 5, you think, for one guy, so one swing round out of 12 could have made it a draw, or 2 could have swung it the other way. Never, ever, 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 ever is that going to be considered an actual robbery. I'm here to give you the real ones. Let's start from the top with a horrible one. You guys probably have not heard of this fight either, but Fox versus Mastra, okay? Fox versus Mastra is an absolute robbery for sure in boxing. Mastra might have won the first round. That's the only round where you can argue giving him a round in the entire fight. Fox outlanded Mastra in every single other round of the fight. Fox had a 10-8 round with what was a legit knockdown of Mastra. Fox landed more. You don't like numbers? You don't like the statistics of total strikes landed, where the power strikes? Well, Fox outlanded Mastra as well in power punches. Go and look at the copy box, and those numbers reflect this. Fox worked the better boxing. If you don't like power punching and you like boxing, the far superior boxer with great head movement, way more jabs landed, and absolutely phenomenal angles throughout this fight. This will go down as a top 10 greatest boxing robberies if you actually bother to go and look into this fight at all, being as these two contenders are guys that fly under the radar, right? They're not A-class names in boxing, so chances are you might not have heard of this, but I'll tell you who remembers this for sure, and that's Fox, as he handedly won this fight. Next on our list is Josh Taylor versus Jack Catterall. Now, this should be one that you're more familiar with. Your boy's on board here, and again, it's not that I'm not on board with a lot of these calls that you guys think somebody should have won a fight but it went the other way. A lot of times, not all of them, but a lot of times, I tend to probably agree with you, but we do not call it a robbery if you had it 7 rounds to 5. Now, in this contest, we have Taylor being outlanded, and here's a copy box for you guys. Are you ready for this? 11 out of 12 rounds. Only one fucking round did Josh Taylor outland Jack Catterall in this fight. Again, here's the just blatant robbery stuff. This is what a robbery is. You don't like the total strikes landed? Where's the power punches? How about in power punches still outlanding Josh Taylor 9 out of 12 rounds? This fight shouldn't have even been a split decision in favor of Jack Catterall. This should have been a sweep, and instead they gave it to Josh Taylor, most likely because it was at home in Scotland, where he is from. For the record, I was rooting for Josh Taylor in this fight because I like him and was not super familiar with Jack Catterall. But let me tell you guys something real fast, right? When fighters leave their families, especially, and this happens a lot, okay, guys? They have like newborns at home, babies that they got to go back to. Their wife's on the phone with them. This is hard. When are you coming back? What is going? And you're away for 6 months in a training camp, away from your family, something crazy. You have to fly away for months. Never mind COVID restrictions that have come in place more recently. You got to stay even longer. You are away from your family for months and months and months on end. And a lot of times, the better part of a year throughout training camps and taking fights in different countries, overseas, so on and so forth. Their wife's on the phone. When are you coming back? The fighter's there talking to their wife. Listen, I know this is hard, but I absolutely promise you that all of this crazy time that I'm spending away is going to be well worth it when I bring home a championship belt. When that fight and my next fight, the purse is enormous. The money comes in. This is the dream. This is what I have worked for since I was 10, 12 years old and started trying to take up a boxing career seriously here. This is what I had 100 amateur fights for. This is what I've taken all the damage for. May not be myself when I grow older. This is the moment for me, and that was the moment for Jack Catterall, and they robbed him of it. Now that's a robbery. That is what a boxing robbery is, you guys, okay? That's what it is. That's what it looks like. And last, but certainly not least, let's take a look at Paul Williams versus Arislandi Lara. Okay? Now, I'll show you a little bit of highlights from this fight as we go over it. Arislandi Lara won no less than 9 out of 12 rounds in this fight. Personally, and I could be, but no less than 9. Personally, I had it 10 rounds to 2 in this fight back in the day, but no way that you can find, there is no way that you can find less than 9 rounds for Arislandi Lara in this fight. He won those 9 rounds. The judges just absolutely robbing him of this contest, scored this 116-114. That guy shouldn't be a judge. Absolutely not. Not acceptable. It's not a night off. It's not, oh, people could disagree. That's a clean sweep in an opposite direction. It smells of incompetence and or corruption and short of nothing else. Nothing else. We had a 116-114. We had a 115-114. These scorecards get even weirder as you'd need to give 10-8 rounds when there was no knockdowns in this fight. And then we had a 114-114 split, which is the closest to the truth. And that fucking guy shouldn't be a judge because you would be so hard-pressed. You cannot make a realistic argument that Paul Williams won more than 3 rounds in this contest. By the way, we know that boxing judges score contests in all sorts of absurd ways all the time, and this happens all the time. Now, you know what is seldomly heard of, right, is that the judges actually, that there's an investigation at all. Now, in this fight, there was an investigation, okay? And then also, what is even more rare is when there's an investigation, which is rare enough. These judges were found incompetent. They were all suspended. This is what a robbery looks like, okay? This is what a robbery looks like. It is not 7 rounds to 5 given to a fighter that you thought it should have swung the other way, 7 rounds to 5, which is only the difference of 1 round, right? They win by 2 rounds. But if you give someone a round in boxing, you're taking the round, a point from somebody else. So that's 1 round swung from a draw. That's a rule. It's official. We do not say robbery if there is a 7-5 scorecard that should have been a draw or gone 7-5 the other way in your belief. I see it all the time. It is not that I disagree with you guys, but using the word robbery is exclusively for these kind of scenarios I've laid out. And before we go, you'll notice that at the beginning of this episode, I told you that this is installment number 1 because we're going to bring you an Olympic special on this. We're going to bring you the old school robberies on this. We have enough robberies, real robberies, like the title says, to go around and show you guys that when you see fights like this that are not even barely close, they aren't close to giving a guy 4 rounds out of 12, and they'll rob people sometimes in boxing. Those are the ones I'm going to show you, so reserve your robbery comments for those and not for close fights by definition.